So, we were talking about how, with the right attitude, this very moment can change the rest of your life. That sense of urgency is important to bring about all the resistance build up and habits build up over years in our minds. This moment, this moment, this moment. I'm gonna set up a sound to take the rhythm from breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. In, gently relaxing all the muscles in your body. Letting go tension, worry. As you relax, the breathing will go lower and lower. Your chest will be quieter, still. And your belly will move more in a very relaxed and natural way. Let your breathing sink down your spine. It may settle around the navel, belly button, or even lower. In, out. And when you breathe in from the base of your spine up to the top of your head. When you breathe out from the front side of your spine down to the bottom. Up, down to the sacrum. Up from the back of your spine to the top of the head. Down from the front side of the spine to the sacrum. Keep that momentum going on. Following with your attention that movement. Up, down, up, down. With your attention and your breathing, you're giving a massage to your spine. Up to the top of your head, down to the sacrum. Keep your full attention and yet a relaxed attitude. Invest your attention in a way you can notice how it goes through every vertebra, very detailed movement. You're giving all your attention to that movement, breathing gently. Don't let anything distract you from following that movement up and down your spine. Just relax your mind and your attention fully alive like a cat catching a mouse. Your full attention effortlessly moving up and down with your breath. Back of the spine up, front of the spine down. Don't lose even for 1 second your attention from going up and down with the breathing. Don't let thoughts or sounds distract you. Notice how breathing and investing your attention like this is profoundly relaxing your body. And bringing up a bit more of vitality to have a clearer, crispier attention. Your body loves it. Feels really good to pay attention and activate your body in this way. Focus of attention goes up and down like a ball. Keep it intense, continuous, alive, effortless. Now leave it and let your attention rest in the movement of your belly. How the breathing is making your belly move a bit out when you breathe in and in when you breathe out. Now don't control your breathing. Let it be natural and automatic. Your body can manage it. You don't need to think to do this. Just focus or highlight the movement of the belly. It's a very natural thing. It doesn't require effort. Your brain is always picking up these sensations. So you don't need to do it. It's already happening. Your brain is already aware of that movement. You are just consciously deciding to release mental activity and reside in this very basic sense of being present specifically with the movement in your belly. Become uninterested in any other sensation or any thought or any sound. They're just irrelevant for what we're doing. Always bring your attention back to that soft, gentle movement of the breath in the lower part of your belly. Just notice if your attention goes astray into thinking or any other event. Gently and effortlessly decline the invitation and go back to nurturing a sustained attention in your belly. Nothing can distract you. It's like a very minimal intention of noticing the belly. It's effortless, soft touch. Doesn't matter how many times you get distracted, just relax that distraction and return to resting your attention in the movement of the breath in your belly. It doesn't matter how busy is your mind or the sounds around. Just gently silently, effortlessly bring your attention to your belly. As if nothing else in the world will exist except the movement of your belly. It's a resting state. You could get excited and go back into thinking, but you could also get dull and your attention will become blurry. In both cases, just relax and sustain the highlight of attention on your belly with clarity, consistency, and effortless. Every time you go back to the belly, your mind loses energy, your attention is more stable. You're cleaning up trauma and unfinished stuff in your unconscious mind. Just by doing so, you're fixing all your life. There is a little release every time you gently correct your attention. The longer the gaps of stable, effortless attention on your belly, the easier it will be to start noticing a sense of vibrant silence. Just rest and over correct your mind if needed. Gently. It's very effortless. You're not fighting against your mind. You're just letting go invitations to be distracted. And you root your presence in the movement in your belly, resting in clear, silent aliveness. The more you relax your mind by resting it in your belly, the more you are in a present silence that is witnessing everything that happens. Your mind is not distracting you. And if it does, just go back to the belly. But if you feel that your attention has stabilized to some extent, you can start taking the presence of everything as an object. So you are observing real time everything that happens. Maybe a sound, a sensation, even thoughts just happen in this moment. So every event you perceive is pointing to the presence of this moment. Notice how things come and go in presence. They cannot exist in any other time. Just right here, right now. Notice how things appear and disappear from your perception. It's always the same time. always here and now. Your mind rests in presence, allowing everything to happen, to appear and disappear freely. There is nothing that can happen that is outside of this real time presence, even thoughts. Become more and more interested in the timing of things appearing and disappearing in your perception. Everything happens now. Doesn't happen in the past or the future. It only happens spontaneously in your all embracing presence. There is more resting and resting in this nowness. This present moment embraces anything. There's nothing outside of it. There's stabilize your attention in there. Just have to let go to the point that you are not doing anything. You couldn't even say that you're meditating. You're just doing nothing. You're just resting. The most basic awareness of being alive. So drop the meditator in you. Just rest in the presence, in the flow of events. Let go. Embrace everything. Happiness is to let things be as they are, resting in the presence. Meditation is always happening. You don't have to do it. Just notice how things appear and disappear. You're effortlessly resting in the silence and stillness of awareness, witnessing it all in real time. Doing nothing. deep can you rest in the presence of this moment without judging anything, just staying here, noticing everything, and yet resting beyond in the stillness of your own awareness. You don't need to have any special skill to do this. At the same time, you're aware that you're profoundly resting and noticing everything very vividly. Just resting, not doing anything. Fully aware and alive. The most effortless, alive state. How much can you let go? Just a bit more. We're gonna be finishing soon. Explore how much can you surrender to this moment, to presence, to not doing. as we finish, we finish as we started. Gently breathe in, going up your spine, and breathe out, going down from the front side of your spine. In, up, out, down. Make the breath a little deeper. And you can let go of that, and little by little start slowly going back. Maybe moving your fingers very gently, very slowly. Your toes. Take your time. So hopefully it's noticeable. There are some sort of steps that through many traditions remain the same. To start with, many people will require some sort of adjustment. Breath work can be very useful. Breathe deeper, to breathe in any way. Also just calming down. Some people will do yoga poses. Anything that helps your mind start relaxing and becoming more. And it comes a time where you stabilize your attention. For that, you need to anchor your attention one specific part of your body or your environment or an image in your mind, sound, anything. But in that way, this is a crucial step most people skip because it feels too difficult. But is the foundation of the rest. The mind is too distracted, there cannot be meditation. So it may feel like cleaning up or doing work of going back to the object, but it pays off, and hopefully it's noticeable more and more that every time you do, you sort of clean up your mind, your mess, your suffering, and there's a bit of a release. And if you do that, at some point, most people will actually take years to complete enough stabilization in their attention. Then you can start, as soon as your attention is resting, your mind is, and maybe make thinking, but the thoughts don't have any power over your attention. They are just like the sounds in the street. You don't pay attention to them if you don't want to. It feels very free, and then from there you can go on exploring deeper what's happening actually, how we do construct our reality, how we perceive this moment here and now from this more multi-layer flowing orchestration of perceptions and events. But the mind needs to be already cooperating. The tension, the relaxation must be significant. At the same time, the aliveness and the freshness of the moment. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to observe things clearly in this point, because ultimately through this investigation, it can be done in different ways, but ultimately embraces anything that's happening here and now. When you stabilize in there, then a sense of something else start coming out. Some people will say it's silence, because when you're very invested in your attention, you may notice there's a quality of silence. There may be many sounds, and even in your mind, maybe some thoughts here and there. But there is a clarity. Some people describe it as sound, as absence of mental chatting. Probably that's the reason. Other people will describe it as stillness. I think that is really accurate, because your perception is always moving. That's a really, really good insight. It's all the time flow, all the time. Even when you think you're in a steady room, you really, really notice how your perception of the room is happening. You will notice that your brain is just picking up like little pictures of things and making a concept you're in a room. But if you really zoom in into what's happening in the moment that is happening, you start noticing just like data coming to you. And the more this data comes to you, the more this transcendental dimension of you start becoming apparent. So stillness, I think, is a very accurate one. Should be very easy for everyone to notice this quality of dynamics in perception. Does it? You know what I mean? I'm just checking out that I'm not talking about something too abstract or unrelated to your experience. But so there is this flow, and the more you rest noticing everything, the more everything starts making sense. There is an analogy someone said, I don't remember where exactly. But it was a really good one. It's like being inside of your mind is like being in the central station rush hour, just there, where the trains are about to depart and everybody's like, wow, wow, wow. People are just running and pushing you, and everything seems so chaotic, and you feel so vulnerable to everything. But as you start, just kind of made up an analogy together with this brilliant analogy of someone else. But so your attention will be like, start looking at the trains and the panel with all the time, and start figuring, okay, this is not just a random thing happening. There must be a structure. You can start noticing. But if you, on top of that, you just go to a higher place on the station, maybe a second or third floor, and just look down, suddenly everything has a very, very precise order. Everyone is going at a certain time, certain place, and everything is flowing in a very orderly way. And that brings about a lot of peace compared to being on the ground where things just happening in a sort of random way. So if you observe everything that happens, all even these minimal moment-to-moment sensations, sort of like an order or stability start becoming more apparent. And start noticing that there is peace. That no matter like the interesting event we have with the phone, the alarm, or your thoughts, you start just noticing that whatever happens is still inside of this frame. No experience, not even painful experiences, not even, everything is inside of that frame. And that gives a sense of simultaneous happening, you being, and things happening, like a sort of like not different dimensions, but sort of different in a way, but just there are very different qualities to that. And the more you abide in there, the more your life changes profoundly. That's it. And without the need of anyone telling you this is how reality is and telling you the truth, start just becoming more apparent. And many humans reported certain crucial turning points. The more you stay in there, I could tell you that just stabilizing your attention, just being able to rest your attention in one object for 1 minute, that's already an indirect way of saying that you are not suffering any psychological episode of anything. Really, your life compared to normal is pretty good. That on itself can be taken as a path. Some traditions, let's say for Hinduist, Vedic traditions, take that more like a path. And because you burn out so much of the dirt of your own mind, it's just impressive. And it's so simple, and it works every single time. So you make it a thing, like you spend time in balancing your attention. That alone, it is fulfilling and brings about a lot of mental health. And in many traditions, if not all of them actually, they insist that you need certain capacity of doing that to clear up your perception if you want to keep on exploring more subtle parts of this. And then it comes this other part that will equal, it's in all traditions, but I would say the one that is more famous and clear is Vipassana, which is the origin of mindfulness in a way, of the mindfulness we know, I mean, where you're just there witnessing things happening here, and there's this sense of flow. But most people jump in there too quickly. So that's why they can be doing retreats of Vipassana for 20 years and they still be mess up in the day-to-day life. They don't seem to be just grasping all these great revelations that are supposed to happen. The other way around, if someone stabilizes their attention, like profoundly, like someone would take it like a hobby you do at home, you just stabilize your attention. Sounds very simple, and yet you need to indirectly control or surrender, better word, your psychology emotionally. So it's a lot. Sounds very simple, the task, but to actually do it is a lot. But nevertheless, it's very simple. Anyone can do it. Every single time you go back to the object, you are letting go something unconscious you didn't notice that was controlling your life, your attention. The more you do that, the more you nurture this stability. Someone who nurtured that stability for a while in some traditions, they have really a perfect attention sustain for many hours. That's the standard in some traditions. So of course that seems crazy. But I would say that at least I would say to go into observing all this flow and having a breakthrough, you probably need some gaps of few minutes of stability when you practice. Like if you will be observing this flow, you will be very much 100% aware that you're embracing everything, that you're not distracted in every single second is a way of saying it, because time starts disappearing a little bit in there, but you just know. It's clarity. It's not that, oh, I got distracted and I come back. Now with that quality of attention, then when you go and observing all this flow, then to start with, I would say that someone who in the traditions, actually more sophisticated traditions, ironically, because this focusing on one object is considered, especially nowadays, the poor man's meditation. Most people, oh, that's not the real deal. You don't get enlightened, they say in Buddhism. But yeah, the other way around, the most advanced or subtle, more evolved paths of any tradition, they actually emphasize a lot on this first part that nobody really wants to. No, I'm too spiritual. I really want to already go into. But no, just do the dirty clothes, dirty work. Fine-tune your attention. If you would do that, that would be enough to just sit on the street and just start noticing things and start getting insights, as they call them, which is just spontaneously notice something very relevant. Something like, oh, it's true. Everything is just happening now. There is just now. There is just this. You know, your mind is tricking you into thinking there is a past and a future, but there is not really. It's just this and that. Suddenly life, this moment becomes very intense and very in the first plane of your perception and priority of processing in your brain, and suddenly everything is alive, and that's already very exciting. But you join practice, stability of attention, and the subtleness of these techniques where you embrace a deeper sense, which in many traditions they will start focusing in one area, let's say sensations on the body, they will stay for a long time, noticing this flow for a long time, really. Let's say years. Many traditions will spend years just doing mindfulness of breathing. Very simple one, everybody knows that, yeah, but you're really serious about it, there's a lot of game in there. There's a lot of gaining. And they will explore different ranges of perception and combine them, and thoughts merge with space, and auditory sensation. There's a lot of different ways of start kind of layering out this complex momentum. But anyways, at some point you sort of start clapping, and then is where this all more transcendental, in the sense of that it's very difficult to talk about it, and yet is the very nature of all of us. So there's nothing secret or unreachable to it. It's just we don't notice because we are utterly distracted all the time. But the more you start abiding in that sense that transcends perception, they must start noticing things that beyond an environment of this kind of research won't make any sense. One of the most crucial ones is to notice that things just happen. You're not choosing them. And I'm talking about your environment, talking about you, your body. You probably didn't decide to touch your hair, you to move right now. You start getting the sense of this is just happening. It's not, we have the illusion of authority and will. And we think we make our choices, but when you observe it at that level, you start noticing that is really not the case. Then it comes out this, do we really, this is really free will? Do you really do anything out of your own? That's a big deal. I don't want to go in there, but that of the out of direct perception, you will notice that if you're honest, and this takes a long time, to me, it really took me years. Years. I think that nobody wants to admit you're just out of control, that the world is out of control, apparently. It's like that's so much. No, I'm a person. I have these things, and I feel guilt for this, and I feel pride for this, And I wake up in the morning, and I chose to be this, and I chose to. There's so much attached to that we don't want to let that go so easily. So even when you sort of, it's kind of obvious if you honestly, directly perceive the process inside of you, still, I would say most people, it really will take a trip to get to the point of saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything. And obviously, naturally, your brain keeps working. You keep moving, keep talking, and yet there is a very clear, profound as in meditation, in the sense of when everything is kind of this special environment or the specific momentum you get through calming your mind. No, exactly the same depth, exactly the same calmness, exactly the same peace, even when everything is happening. But there is this crucial step where you admit to yourself that in a way, you don't exist in the sense of the regular sense of me. I'm not saying, obviously, it's evident we are here, but it brings a lot of release in terms of like, imagine all the burden of your life, all the guilt, all everything goes to the wind because there is no authority really. I'm sorry if it sounds very philosophical. I'm just trying to go around something and hopefully make it interesting enough for you to devote a little more of research on it, and hopefully I'm trying to make the point that it's very accessible for everyone at any given time to reach an unlimited peace, and that live from there, life should be like a baby which is just amazed at anything that happens. Yes, that it is happening. just that level of babies still there. We just forgot it completely. We just put a lot of layers of automated mental constructions on top of it. But if you start peeling off the onion, you just find that amazing presence, which your mind won't find a way to make it match with the regular understanding of who you are and what you do and what life is and what you believe, because this has nothing to do with believing. It's direct you noticing something in there. But beyond the point that it is very unconditional, that sense of presence is utterly unconditional. It's exactly the same when you were 2 years old. It's going to be the same when you will be 80 years old. Exactly the same. That's pretty impressive discovery to do. That's why some old people don't feel old at all. Because in a way they never are. And of course, the baby is just the first embodiment, sensory level. But of course, you keep peeling, you're gonna find this. Sounds very abstract, but it's very real. It's very much the core of you in this moment, here and now. Is the awareness of everything. Is the core. Without that, you're not here. So it's some way very familiar, just mixed up with a lot of distraction on top. Well, that core of presence here and now, that awareness is absolutely unrelated to time and space. For more that sounds very freaky, it is not. And that brings about that sense of just you cannot kill it. It's not that you need to reach that state where you are finally aware in peace. No, you cannot kill it. There is no moment in your life you cannot be aware. So if you surrender your mind, you don't even need to arrange it. You don't even need to perfect your body and your mind, although it's probably a very natural thing to happen when you start improving yourself. But it's sort of more like an overflowing excitement rather than I need to improve the stability of my mind to be. No, you already are. It's just and the recognition that beauty, that peace is innate nature of you, that nothing in this life will ever take it from you. Unless you get distracted. At that point, you feel like you did it. Like you made it. Like there is nothing beyond that. And it's the most common one moment to moment experience. And the other hand, is the most ordinary and extraordinary thing at the same time. The most accessible and the same time from the mind is impossible to reach. That's one of the difficulties. The more you're attached to your mind, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Your attention is entangled in thoughts, so your attention is pulled all the time. You're not gonna notice the background that's sustaining everything. It's just not going to happen. But the sense of satisfaction here and now, it translates into knowing that you just know you are just going to be fine. Always, no matter what. Of course, it brings the more familiar you are with that. Of course, I strongly suggest and every realized master in the most enlightened people that had happened, they insisted, they strongly recommended practice. So that's the tricky thing about it. Someone will say, yeah, but how do you need to be practiced to be aware? Well, okay, just be honest with yourself. You're still suffering, you're still afraid of what may happen or what you may lose, then you're not there yet. So don't. Yes. That's a very tricky question, because the answer is very, you cannot become more aware. Awareness is unchangeable. That's one of the ways of recognizing it. It doesn't ever changes. So I would say, honestly, deeply inside, for any person, just really noticing that you're suffering less is probably one of the best indicators that you're doing the right thing. Because especially in spiritual environments and groups, you get a lot of faking. Faking to be better than you are. And you will know you have a person, you will like to be the best, so it's normal. It's just that's what I think ultimately is not very beneficial to be into a structure of a religion or a spiritual organization. Ultimately, I think it's very useful to many ways. So please, if any feel attached to a group and feel it's very beneficial to do it, but eventually we just make a personality out of it, like I belong to this or I'm part of this, and like that's obviously not cutting through. So suffering is definitely the best way. I say this because sometimes you can get super highs. That's very confusing. You can get super high for 3 days, a week, where you're just, I get it. And honestly, that's very frustrating. And I would say that's not a clear indication of improvement. On the other hand, if you find yourself in whatever triggers you, maybe you have anger, maybe you have sadness, maybe you have apathy, maybe you have violence, whatever it is, if you know yourself, whatever it is that triggers you out of balance, if you find yourself in that situation and you find less trigger, find like you have a bit of a gap of deciding if you want to follow that energy or not, that is real improvement. And we keep pulling that, keeps cleaning, and it passes from normal suffering that everybody's accepting. In life, you just suffer. Everybody's screwed. You're depressed. Okay, it's because of a biological dysfunctional DNA thing that I have, so I'm gonna be suffering for the rest of my life. You go into just noticing that you're not the happiest, probably too, if you have to make a summing up and down, but you just notice that you're way lighter about everything hard in life. Like you will feel very unnatural in an environment where people are crying because someone died, or something horrible happened in the world, and for some reason you cannot cooperate so much. It's not that you don't admit the facts, but you don't make assumption about it, so you don't suffer that much. You're just more noticing what's happening. And then at some point, definitely the peace itself, so it's not just not suffering, the peace itself, and that's the part I really understand why many traditional teachers don't want to talk about this, because it can turn into an ego goal. But you start just noticing the background of peace and bliss start just sinking in there. Of course, there is an up, on and up, and at some point you can find yourself in the lowest point of what you will define what could happen to you, and you just notice that bliss is still there. So people will think you just lost it. But there's a great sense of indestructibility of your peace and bliss. And I'm going to leave it there because there is more. But I think it's very esoteric and it's very, what's the point of talking about it kind of thing. You live it or you don't. But of course, there is more. I mean, it goes to the beyond any kind of imagination. And I say this in an exciting way, in a way like, no, you just don't suffer and that's the end of the path. No, that's the knowledge for the masses in a religious way, in a sense of, okay, that's enough for most humanity to deal with. Just think about, you're going to suffer less, you're going to be less stressed, you're going to be, but that's just the surface. That doesn't make even a fair account of living a reality where, like the baby, where you are in wonder with everything and you're at peace no matter how many apparent punches happen to you. You could be like losing everything tomorrow and you still feel like you are in the top of that train station, and you notice this apparently bad thing happens, but you just know things just balance. And the higher you kind of, this is another thing, many meditation environment, serious, they won't like to talk about it, but they actually do. The higher you rank in this open concept of you, meaning integrating everything as yourself and not just the little me and my body, but just really opening to this space, opening to the stillness and the timelessness and the presence. And the more you start embracing everything as yours, every experience, every perception is just a perception. Is you. Everything feels more like you. Anything. This. Everything is just the same. It's just perception. So start blurring this out. And I would say maybe in a more, so it doesn't look like something strange what I say, but I'm going to say my way. The more you love life, the more life loves you. So you start getting a certain confidence, like, I can just jump. I'm definitely not, sorry. I'm just saying, getting the confidence that if you feel that you have to do something, but when you lose everything you've been working for, you're still noticing nothing brings you down. At the same time, nothing brings your happiness. That may look like apathy, but no, that's not the case. It's just the opposite. Because when you're playing a game and you don't feel like you're going to lose anything important in the game, you're super excited with the game. So yes, you keep doing a lot of things and life is very exciting, but not in a needy way. Not like, I need to go on vacations. I need to make more money. No, it's just like, it just doesn't matter if your bank account is negative or positive. For practical reasons, it does matter, but not like you're going to stop feeling bliss right now. Does this make sense? I'm talking, I think this, for some people may look, this guy is just going to pushing it too hard and just talking about something very exceptional. But no, it's true. It's very real, and you don't need training for that. You just need to surrender. Training in the sense of adding anything to you. That's why I don't know if you ever heard this before, but everybody's enlightened already. This layer of bliss and peace is there already. So it's just stabilizing yourself, your attention into that. Did I answer your question? Thank you so much. I really appreciate your presence. Thank you.